Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel S. Ruby, and I'm so glad you're here today. I love delving into topics that are a little outside of the normal healing realm box, so to speak. And in order to provide you with more information and ways to feel better as you go through your healing journey. And this podcast definitely checks that box as something you may not have considered as part of the healing process, but something that will definitely benefit you, not just in your healing process, but the rest of your life. We are going to be discussing the energetic benefits of sustainable living. And we're going to learn how to do a home detox to eliminate commonly found toxins that are found in products that we use in our home. And we will, by doing so, we heal the earth and we can also heal energetically from divorce. So my guest today is Jessica Franklin. She is a sustainable living expert and an emotion coach, and the host of Live Lightly podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Jessica. I'm so happy to have you here today.
I am thrilled to be here, Rachel. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my wisdom about sustainability.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for that. And so because you are a friend of mine, I know how passionate you are about saving the planet, and you do have so much wisdom to share. So let's start out by having you tell the listeners and viewers, what is sustainable living?
So sustainable living is, I think, a fairly newer term because, there are green products kind of popping up everywhere and people are wanting to do right by the planet. And so I think that it's just something that people are starting to become aware of, but not exactly sure, what is that exactly? And so I think really sustainable living is living it with the planet in mind, with everything that you purchase as a consumer. And so just trying to be in balance with Mother Nature, really, as a consumer.
That sounds like a perfect explanation. So thank you for that. We live in a culture and a society where it takes a lot of effort to live sustainably. How did you get started living this way? And how did you find the interconnection between living this way and the overall feeling of health and well-being?
Well, that's a good question. And it kind of goes back to my childhood where everything was focused around, for me, trying to figure out health and what is health. I grew up with a mom who had MS. And so from a very young age, I knew the difference between health and sickness and disease. And so I was just always a curious seeker of all things wellness and health related, from food and nutrition to exercise. And I always kind of had this underlying feeling of our bodies are powerful and can heal themselves. We don't have to rely maybe necessarily wholeheartedly on medicine. And because she actually had no medicine that could help her. And I felt always that, she could have maybe changed some of the things in her diet and exercised and just lived a little bit more of a life in alignment with taking care of her body, that maybe her body would have responded in a different way. So it goes way back to that. And then I guess along the way, little things here and there popped up, like when organic food became a thing. And all of a sudden you're seeing food at the grocery store that's labeled organic versus everything else. And so that, I would say, was the first seed that was planted along my journey of finding out what sustainable living means. And I guess I could go a little bit into that as well, because that's part of sustainable living. The food that we choose is a daily choice, and it's hugely, vastly involved and connected to the health of the planet, as well as our own health, right? Those two things didn't come together immediately for me, but as I started to question organic food versus everything else, I started to learn why things are labeled now differently versus before, when everything was just the way it was, right? So organic food is different because it's not sprayed with chemicals and pesticides, which, at first was something that we learned is not good for us and our health and well-being, to be intaking those type of things day after day, week after week, year after year into our own bodies. We start putting a toxic load or a toxic burden when scientists started to find links between health and having our food sprayed with all of these chemicals. That's when I started seeing a connection, and also the health of the soil, and the farmers and the people in the communities who live around the homes. That's when I started to really find that there was a true connection between that and not only our health, but the health of everything else in our environment and everything else that's around organic versus not organic crops. And then it kind of just snowballed from there, right? Like every little thing, you start questioning everything then, or at least I did, because I'm kind of just that type of personality who is geeking out all the time on all the latest and greatest health and fitness, not just with food, but with exercise and different types of, it led me into yoga and meditation. And so, there's the physical and the emotional and mental aspect of health, but then there was this other whole world of, what's going on in the planet with the things that we're taking into our bodies every day that we're eating. And then it led me to start looking on labels. You start looking on labels of all of the cleaners that you're using in your house, or the lotion and the makeup and the shampoo. And as I was looking at labels, many of them have caution and warning signings that are pretty severe, like call poison control, right? And so that leads me to think like, wow, what is in this? And generally on an ingredient label, you're not going to see all of the ingredients. I think you at the time had to call and find out if you wanted the entire list of ingredients. And so that led me down a big rabbit hole of, what are these ingredients that are so toxic that if I ingested some, I have to call poison control or 911 and get myself immediately to a hospital. And so I think that it's just been a journey of exploration and constantly questioning everything that I bring into my environment, my own environment, my body and my home.
Yeah, it's a wonderful and very eye-opening journey, and it continues daily. Yes. With all of the changes. So, how does detoxing the home become an act of conscious self-care, physically, mentally, spiritually? So, especially when we're healing from a trauma.
I would say that when you're going through a big transition, such as divorce, or any transition in life where you want to energetically kind of wipe the slate clean and begin something fresh, that in and of itself is an opportunity to do something different. And when you bring consciousness into your home environment, I think that's a really great way for energetically just shifting and changing the dynamics of the home that you live in. Because, with divorce, oftentimes there's a change in housing, right? Either you're going to be moving out of a shared home, or maybe the shared home is sold and everybody's moving. Either way, you're in a new environment. Maybe you're staying in the home that was shared with your former spouse, and that energy can maybe remain in a space of just feeling uncomfortable or heavy or sad. And so just making a conscious shift into changing that energy, I think is the first step to, just finding a home environment that can be happy and joyful and filled with light energy. And deciding to, bring cleaning products in that have essential oils in them and that are free of chemicals. And also maybe, another layer would be bringing in less plastic into your home because that that's not great for the environment now. So all of those little things, I think, can lighten the energy and the mood of a home, especially when you're doing it in a way that's conscious, right? Like anything that we do with an intention behind it tends to have an energetic effect on our own emotion, but also on the space that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I've had other podcasts where we talk about making the home a place that is a healing, a place of healing, a place where you can allow healing and, eliminating clutter and feng shui principles and just making it a happy, light place, kind of like you said, the light energy. I think that's so important. And you can do those things for very little cost. It's not, it doesn't involve selling all your furniture and getting new furniture. But I have talked about people who do stay in the family home or the home where they lived with their former spouse and how to change that energy there. So this is a great tool to add to that kind of, toolbox, and how to create new energy and make it more light and more happy. And yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so I agree. And it can be as extreme as maybe you don't want to keep some of those items, such as furniture that were shared before, or you had to split everything up. Well, now you have an opportunity to buy a piece of furniture that is going to be sustainable and made in alignment with Mother Nature and something that isn't filled with toxic chemicals and weighing down your home in that way either. So if there are big changes to make, you can totally make those big changes. But if there aren't, then there's no need to do something extreme like furniture. It can start with a cleaning product. It can be maybe your next a replacement of makeup or something that you use for daily beauty routine. It can be really anything that you're buying on a daily basis and bringing into your home to use. It can be a new sponge in your kitchen sink, right? Just anything that feels, new and different, and that you've made that conscious choice to do this in a new way so that you're also taking care of the planet. That's one thing that I think, shifted in me. Because when I started out doing things for my health, like organic food and I would say also eliminating chemicals from all of the cleaning products that I was using. At first, it was kind of a fear-based energy, and I was doing it for the reason of like not harming my health, right? And it almost became a stressor because I was kind of incorporating a little bit of fear and worry into that process. And I had to learn eventually to kind of shift that intention to doing it for the planet instead of because I didn't want to harm my health. Because, anything that you're doing with fear can kind of cause stress, right? And stress isn't good for your health. And prevent healing too when you're doing something out of fear. Yeah. It can prevent healing, and it can also cause, sickness and disease in abundance when it's too much stress. So instead of having stress around, buying things that were organic, and then stressing when you don't get something that is organic on your plate at a restaurant or something, like instead of eating that meal with stress and like, oh gosh, this is not good for my health, you just bless it and you're grateful for it. And you add those high frequency energies to the meal with a blessing and gratitude. And you just like kind of move on, right? I always say like, I give it to God and I bless it. And it's now success. Yeah. So basically it means like no harm can come from this. And so I like to approach things with just a sense of like, I'm doing this for the planet and I'm, going to eliminate these chemicals or not buy things that are in plastic because I'm wanting to be a better citizen of the planet. Because I know when we have a healthy planet, in turn, our health and wellness is also taken care of. It's all interconnected.
Yeah. And all the steps that we're taking, we're also helping ourselves in the process. So it's a wonderful thing. Okay, so let's talk about your sustainable wellness home guide that you have and you actually offer for free, which is phenomenal. I know personally that this is an amazing guide because I have learned so much from all of your research and all of your dedication in putting this together. And I know it's ever growing. And some of the products in there I didn't even know existed. And I can't say enough about it. And I hope that everybody, at the end, will put the link or you can tell us where to get it. And again, it's free. So this is a really great way for you to start. You don't have to research and do all the work yourself. And can you share with viewers and listeners how someone would begin the process of detoxing their home by using your guide?
Yeah, definitely. The reason I created my guide, it's a labor of love, is because when I started to eliminate the chemicals from household products, it was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of hit and miss moments where I would buy something and I'd be like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like got a green, label on it. And it's like, there's green in the name of it or something that indicated it was so much better than the alternative. And as I started to really kind of geek out on things and get into the labels and really investigating each and every single ingredient, just to kind of out of curiosity, it was kind of started out of fun. And then it became like, I kind of became obsessed with it because green labels don't necessarily mean that every ingredient in the product is green and environmentally friendly for the planet, nor for you. There might have been an added product ingredient to a cleaning product or a beauty product, let's say, that has a natural property because it comes from a plant or, something that wasn't chemically engineered. However, that is one, maybe two ingredients of the whole. And as I continued to look into things and dig a little bit deeper, I found that most of the ingredients are no different from the other stuff on the shelf. And you're paying more for it, which is kind of the sad part because they're taking advantage of people who have a good intention, who want something that's better for themselves and for the planet when they're marketing things that way. And then I found out that, boy, you don't have to actually, follow any guidelines when you're making claims on the bottle of a product. So this is where greenwashing comes in. And so this is kind of a long-winded answer to your short question, which seems like a simple question, but I do have to talk about greenwashing because this is why I made my guide. It seems as though it would be easy to go out and go to the green aisle of your grocery store to find cleaning products that are better for your home. And that's where I started. But I will tell you that every single product on the shelves at your grocery store in that section of green cleaning is absolutely greenwashing. It's either in an unsustainable packaging with still some ingredients that I would not want in my home after knowing what they are and, after knowing what they are and the side effects, I guess, of long-term use and on like the respiratory system or on your skin. There's all sorts of different things that can be affected by different ingredients. And so that's what led me to start going online and finding products that were actually really, truly sustainable without any harsh chemicals. And that's another, whole story of being greenwashed left and right, because the first page or two is generally giving you, sponsored ads or maybe the most popular products that come up. And those aren't also necessarily going to be fully green, whether it's ingredients or packaging, or maybe the sourcing of the ingredients or the way that the product is made is not ethically made. So it's not good for, the people that are involved in the process of making the product itself. And so I made the guide because it literally took me 7 years of trial and error and research and learning about what sustainability truly is. Sustainability is not only how the end product is made, the end product that you're getting, but it's also about the process of how were those ingredients originally sourced? Are they sourced in a sustainable manner from an ethically grown crop, right? Where people who are growing the crops and doing that work are treated and paid ethically, right? There's so many different layers within sustainability that I think, aren't really thought about yet. And so as I went through the process of learning about all of the ingredients and the packaging, then I started learning about sourcing and about, ethical treatment and payment to the people who are producing the ingredients or the materials for products. And so this is where the guide comes in, because I feel like it's hard to know where to start when you're making decisions to become more sustainable as a consumer. And I think most people don't have the time, nor do they maybe, have an interest in doing this much research. And because of greenwashing, it can just be so misleading, and you can end up spending a lot of money on things that just aren't what you're actually truly looking for. So that's why I made my guide, was to help people cut through all of that time and energy and just find the right stuff. And, it's funny because I'll use this as an example. Using a stainless steel water bottle or coffee mug is a much more sustainable practice than drinking bottled water, because a bottle of water in plastic is filling you with microplastics every time you drink out of it, which we now know science is proving and finding that in humans when they're being tested for it. In addition to the fact that plastic is not sustainable for the planet, at the end of the day, when you're done with the water, using something that is reusable is much more sustainable than drinking out of a plastic water bottle or going and getting your coffee and just having whatever mug they hand you. So just switching to something that's reusable in and of itself is definitely more sustainable. Now, what you choose as your refillable water bottle or coffee mug is a whole nother ball of wax. There are heavy, hard plastic, replacements for these items. I've seen water bottles that are made from anywhere from like a softer plastic, to very, very hard plastic, and both for water bottles and coffee mugs. You're still drinking out of plastic. It's still something that is at the end of its useful life going to be a disaster for the planet. And along the way, it does save using a lot of plastic water bottles and coffee mugs, but it's just not as sustainable. And so that's a very good example of making a choice to do something that you want to do to, better for the planet, better for myself, but maybe you didn't know that, replacing it with a plastic water bottle that's reusable or hard plastic coffee mug isn't necessarily 100% better for your health or for the planet at the end of the day. And then also maybe, okay, stainless steel is better, right? It's a better material. It's not going to leach chemicals into my coffee or into my water. But there's also different levels of stainless steel and how that can be made more sustainably as well. So in my guide, you'll see two different companies that I back for water bottles, and one that has water bottles and coffee mugs, and also a few other products that they make. But their stainless steel is, made of 88% post-consumer stainless. So it's like a much more sustainably made stainless steel coffee mug or water bottle. And
fantastic.
The other brand that I like is one that doesn't have a plastic lid either. So if you really want that security of not going to spill, not going to leak, then you would choose the one product that I have in my guide. And that's very, very good, except for the plastic lids. And then there's a second water bottle that I have in my guide that has a silicone lid. And so that would be 100% no plastic involved at all in the water bottle. So those are, that's just a great example, I think, of how my guide has narrowed it down to giving you a couple of different options, because I know that some people don't want to have anything that might leak if it spills over. So maybe the lid that's the silicone lid isn't going to work for your lifestyle or for a particular need that you have, like you put it in your purse or a backpack, and maybe it will like spill on something. So I get that. And so I definitely have, taken that into consideration and given another option that's like super, super sustainable, but it does have a plastic lid. So that's just one example of basically how my guide can bring you to the most sustainable options for what it is that you're looking for to replace. And, kind of in maybe too much detail, why I've chosen only 2 products for that whole category when there are tons and tons and tons of different brands of water bottles out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. But those are great tips. And I think, again, like your guide is really so helpful because, like you said, most people don't have the time, nor do they want to spend the time because, life is fast and this and that. And you've done all the work for everybody. So it's fantastic. How can viewers and listeners connect with you and find your guide and watch your podcast, which I know you go into great detail on a lot of these topics with experts. So if people may want to get started and learn more, which is fantastic, where do they find you?
Well, I have my podcast on pretty much any platform that people listen to podcasts. So whatever you're listening to this podcast on, you'll be able to find me as well. And it's the Live Lightly podcast. And my website is livelightly.eco. So livelightly.eco. And that is where you can find all of my episodes as well. And you can listen directly from that website if you don't have a favorite preferred platform. And there's a tab on that website where you can find my guide. It's just get the guide. And you can download it for free. And when you do sign up for the newsletter, you'll get the guide. And weekly or every other week, you'll receive a newsletter with some fun tips as well.
Terrific. That's fantastic. And I get those tips and they're always wonderful. So, so much appreciated. The guide, obviously, when you said it is here on the screen. And if you are a listener of the Divorce to Bliss podcast, it will be in the show notes where you can find Jessica and download the free guide. So thank you so much for being here today and for all of this wonderful, helpful information. Again, it's just another part of helping people along the healing journey to live more sustainably. And I think that just really creates that kind of those feel good vibes that we have, that we're doing something good for ourselves. We're doing something good for the planet. And hopefully they will continue in their journey to do that by using your guide and listening to your podcast. So thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.